you just have that for the record.
As what?
Potential and pending.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I have a motion and a second.
Mayor, I move to approve the meeting agenda and remove the proclamation and defer the proclamation to the Officer of the Year to the next meeting, and to go into executive session for potential and pending legislation and litigation and land acquisition also.
Okay.
Second that.
I've got a motion by Councilmember Lusk and a second by Councilmember Large. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Do we have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
Okay, I'm going to move on now. We can move to the consent agenda. If the city clerk will sound the items, please.
First item is approval of the October 8th, 2012 City Council Work Session Minutes. Agenda item number 12275. Next, approval of the October 15th, 2012 Regular City Council Minutes. Agenda item number 12276. Approval of a professional services agreement change order between the City of Milton and BM&K PC for right-of-way services for intersection improvements for State Route 372 at Providence Road and State Route 140 at New Providence Road. This is agenda item number 12277. Next, approval of a construction services agreement between the City of Milton and Infinity Construction Services, Inc. for traffic calming for white columns. Agenda item number 12278. Our fifth item is approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Wilmer Engineering, Inc. to provide geotechnical testing services for the replacement of the Cogburn Road Bridge. Agenda item number 12279. Next, approval of a right-of-way mowing and maintenance agreement by and between the Georgia Department of Transportation and the City of Milton for project PI 0005448, State Route 372, Birmingham Highway at Providence Road Roundabout. Agenda item number 12280. Next, approval of a right-of-way mowing and maintenance agreement between the City of Milton and Georgia Department of Transportation for the proposed City of Milton Court, Fire, and Police facility located at 13690 State Highway 9. Agenda item number 12281. Next, approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Malden and Jenkins, LLC for external auditing. Agenda item number 12282. Our ninth and final consent agenda this evening is approval of the audit engagement letter with Malden and Jenkins, LLC to audit the city's financial statements for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2012. Agenda item number 12283.
Okay, we'll ask for a motion to second on the consent agenda, but I'll let Councilmember Lusk.
If it's appropriate, I'd like to pull agenda item number 12-279 from the consent agenda for discussion.
Mr. City Attorney, is that the, would we vote to
Typically
separate that?
A motion and second. You got to put it somewhere else on the agenda. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll open up for a motion and second to move that on the agenda for discussion, and also remove it from the consent agenda, and we'll vote on the other items.
Remove to new business.
Yeah, move to new business. Do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we remove agenda item number 12279 from the consent agenda and place in new business.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion from Councilmember Lusk, second by Councilmember Thurman, to remove item number 5 or agenda item number 12-279 from our consent agenda and move it to new business. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. So now I would need a motion and a second to vote on the consent agenda with the except for item number 12-279.
Mayor, I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Thurman, second by Councilmember Hewitt to approve our consent agenda minus agenda item number 12-279. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. And I'll put that in new business. Okay. Move on to presentations. And our first presentation tonight, next on our agenda, we've got a proclamation honoring Milton High School student Raja, and I'm going to try to pronounce it, Selvak Kumar. At just 17 years old, Raja has invented a battery that could be instrumental in powering the cutting edge of medical technology for future generations. He hopes to attend MIT, and judging by the work he's doing while still in high school, I'd say he's got a pretty good shot. I'd like to invite Raja and his family to the podium after I read the proclamation so we can have a photo made and with the young man that's got a very bright future ahead of him, and we're obviously very proud to have him here tonight. So I'm going to read this proclamation, and then I would like to ask Raja and his family to step forward. Whereas American expertise in science and medical technology has been among the country's greatest gifts to the world, and whereas each generation pushes the boundaries of what can be achieved through human ingenuity, producing more productive, fulfilling, and comfortable lives, and whereas Raja Selvak Kumar, a 17-year-old student at Milton High School, exemplifies what it means to be a committed, hardworking scholar, excelling in a number of subjects, and whereas Raja was recently highlighted by Popular Science magazine for his groundbreaking work at the Milton High School Science Fair, where he demonstrated his fuel cell that runs on human stomach bacteria. And whereas the invention uses a naturally occurring process involving gastrobacteria in the stomach breaking down glucose for energy, a process that liberates electrons. And whereas Raja figured out how to capture those electrons using a carbon pad and turn it into current. And whereas the potential uses for such a fuel cell include powering diagnostic and surgical nanobots to find a range of complicated diseases. Now therefore, we the mayor and the city council of the city of Milton hereby honor Raja Selvak Kumar and encourage all citizens to do the same, given under my hand and seal of the city of Milton, Georgia, on this 5th day of November, 2012. So if I could ask the council and Raja and your family to step forward, I'd like to present this proclamation.
What'd you do today?
You can always go there for his PhD.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, next on our agenda, we've got a proclamation recognizing Birmingham United Methodist Church as a great partner and host for the Milton Roundup. The church has graciously provided the wonderful location where plenty of good local food, games, music, exciting rides, and more can be enjoyed by thousands in attendance. Over the last 6 years, the Milton Roundup has become a staple event in our community, and we are so thankful to Birmingham United Methodist Church for hosting us. I'd like to invite Gary Schramm, one of the church trustees, to the podium after I read this proclamation so we can have a photo made with him and the proclamation. Okay. Whereas, over the last 6 years, the Milton Roundup has become a staple in our community as an annual celebration for the residents of the city. And whereas, thousands of people from Milton and the surrounding communities join in the day-long event. And whereas, Birmingham United Methodist Church has been a valuable and gracious partner to the city of Milton, providing a pastoral, spacious location where plenty of good local food, games, music, exciting rides, and more can be enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas the community events such as the Milton Roundup serve a greater purpose by fostering citizen engagement and involvement with other residents. And whereas on the 6th year of the city, we would like to express our great appreciation to Birmingham United Methodist Church for being a wonderful community partner and hosting the Milton Roundup. Now therefore, I, the mayor and the city council of Milton, hereby thank Birmingham United Methodist Church for allowing the city to hold the Milton Roundup on their grounds and encourage all citizens to do the same. Given under our hand and sealed the city of Milton, Georgia on the 5th day of November. And if you guys will come down and join me with Gary to present this. Okay, now we've got one more proclamation recognizing Veterans Day, and I'm going to have Councilmember Bill Watts present this.
I'll read the proclamation, and afterwards I'd like to have honor guard from Piedmont chapter, SAR, come forward and accept the proclamation. It's a proclamation, Veterans Day 2012. Whereas it has long been our custom to commemorate November 11th, the anniversary of the ending of World War I, by paying tribute to the heroes of that tragic struggle and by rededicating ourselves to the cause of peace. And whereas in the intervening years, the United States has been involved in several other great military conflicts, which have added millions of veterans, living and dead, to the honor rolls of this nation. And whereas the Congress passed a concurrent resolution on 4 June 1926, calling for the observance of November 11th with appropriate ceremonies, and later provided in an act approved 13 May 1938 that the 11th of November should be a legal holiday and should be known as Armistice Day. And whereas, in order to expand the significance of that commemoration, and in order that a grateful nation might pay appropriate homage to the veterans of all its wars who have contributed so much to the preservation of this nation, the Congress, by an act approved 1 June 1954, changed the name of the holiday to Veterans Day. Therefore, I, Joe Lockwood, Mayor of the City of Milton, do hereby call upon all of our citizens to observe Monday, November 12th as Veterans Day. 2012. On that day, let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all of those who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores to preserve our heritage of freedom, and let us consecrate ourselves to the task of promoting and enduring peace, so that their efforts shall not have been in vain. In witness whereof hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Milton to be affixed on this, the 5th day of November, 2012. If we would, go down, color guard.
Thank y'all very much. I'm really glad to have you here. Glad to have you here always. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to our first presentation items. If our city clerk could please call the items.
The first item is consideration of the approval of an ordinance amending ordinance number 090949, adopting and amending rules and procedures for the city council meetings and public hearings for the city of Milton, Georgia, and for other purposes. Agenda item number 12284. Our final first presentation item, consideration of an ordinance to amend Article 3, Property Maintenance, Division 4, General Requirements, Section 10267, Exterior Property Requirements of Chapter 10, Buildings and Building Regulations of the City of Milton Code. Agenda item number 12285.
Okay. Have a motion and a second on the first presentation item?
I make a motion to approve the first presentations.
Second motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Hewitt, second by Councilmember Lusk. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. We'll move on to our public hearing. Will the city clerk please sound the first public hearing item?
First item is consideration of the approval of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Mr. Jing Inc., doing business as Roussan's, located at 13085 Highway 9, Suite 440, Milton, Georgia, 3004. The applicant is Jingbo Li, consumption on premises wine and malt beverages. Agenda item number 12272. This item was deferred at the October 15th regular council meeting. Ms. Stacy Inglis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is before you again tonight, and the applicant is in compliance now with all of the city's requirements. And this is simply a new owner of this business. They had a previous owner that had this type of license, and so this is just a new owner, same type of license. So staff recommends that you approve the item before you.
Okay. Do we have any public comments?
We do not, sir.
Okay. Any council discussion before I close the hearing? Okay. Hearing none, I'll close the hearing and open up for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Mr. Jing Incorporated DBA Roussan's located at 13085 Highway 9, Suite 440, Milton, Georgia 30004, for the consumption on premises wine and malt beverages, agenda item number 12272.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, I've got a motion by Councilmember Koontz and a second by Councilmember Thurman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. And if the city clerk will please sound the next public hearing item.
Our next item is consideration of a resolution imposing a limited and temporary moratorium upon issuance of business licenses to new pain management clinics within the city of Milton. This is agenda item number 12286. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. This is the public hearing component of a moratorium with respect to pain management clinics. There's actually an item later we'll be able to adopt this moratorium after the public hearing has concluded. This is a moratorium that you have seen before. We have imposed actually a moratorium previously while the city of Milton took steps to try and enact regulations pertaining to pain management clinics. As you know, we've discussed previously that these are the sorts of businesses that I think the city of Milton, as well as the state of Georgia, believe may be undesirable to the extent that they have less of a healthcare component and more of a prescription medication abuse component, and that's why they're being addressed. The state of Georgia has endeavored to address concerns related to basically the unorthodox distribution of these sorts of medications, and one of those methods is the implementation of a statutory scheme that will set up a statewide database for basically monitoring these sorts of abusive prescriptions of medication, particularly of a narcotic or scheduled medication. And the city of Milton, I think, after the last moratorium we had in place, or we're about to adopt some regulations, and I think that you all said, wait a second, let's give the state of Georgia maybe a little more time before we adopt a new regulatory scheme that requires enforcement, that requires funding, that requires resources. Let's see if the state of Georgia can actually get this database in place and begin to effectively deal with this. So that was the purpose of an October moratorium on pain management clinics, which was a stopgap, very short-lived moratorium. Tonight, after we have a public hearing, we can actually adopt what you've adopted previously, another moratorium that will last actually until April 5th of next year. By that time, we are cautiously optimistic the state of Georgia will have it put in place. The database will actually have a system of monitoring, and perhaps then you can feel better that the proliferation of these sorts of institutions will have been stopped, and we won't have to set up any sort of a Milton-based regulatory scheme. So that's the purposes of this moratorium this evening. And Mr. Mayor, at this point, if you want to go ahead and open up the public hearing, and we'll see if anyone wants to comment on this.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
And do we have any, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Bill?
I have. I've noticed there are signs up within the city advertising pain care facilities here. Will this adoption of this moratorium make it unlawful to advertise within the city during this
It's a great question. It's a great question. Is would it make it unlawful to advertise? The answer is no. This will only affect the providing of a business license for such a clinic. So to the extent that there is a clinic outside the city limits of Milton that is advertising in Milton, they will simply be subject to our sign code.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Okay. We'll close that hearing. That'll be the end of our public hearings tonight. We don't have any items on our zoning agenda or unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. Will the city clerk please call the first item?
First item is consideration of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Milton and the City of Alpharetta for parks and recreation programs and services. Agenda item number 12287. Mr. Jim Craig.
That's you.
You're on. Jim can handle it. This is a real quick one tonight. I'll start talking since he's sitting there. There's a memorandum of understanding before you tonight that contemplates a pretty neat thing, and that's that Milton and Alpharetta have worked together to figure out a way to eliminate these dreaded non-resident fees in each other's parks. What's before you tonight is a memorandum of understanding that would allow those people that play or otherwise register in recreation programs in any of Alpharetta's facilities to do so as though they were in the same ranks as an Alpharetta citizen, and vice versa. Now you might say, why did this agreement come to be, and why are we where we are today? And part of that is because, number one, the cities have great working relationships with each other. Number two, Alpharetta recognizes that their population has expanded and their park system is relatively built out, whereas ours is not. There's some thought that as this relationship grows and as we bring facilities online, the monetary contribution that we make in the form of a capital payment to Alpharetta will decrease over time to the point that when we are offering similar services that dollar figure goes away completely. I don't need to explain any more detail really than that. I think you all are aware of what we are voting on. I would like the opportunity to allow the chairman of the Parks and Rec Board to come up and speak here quickly as a part of the staff presentation, since the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee took a position and adopted a resolution on this topic. And then might ask Councilmember Coons to kind of close it, because he was part of the negotiating team that really was able to get this done. So if I could turn it over to Mark Reed first, and then Councilmember Coons.
Lord Mayor, City Council, you have before you two resolutions that we passed at our October 18th meeting. The first, and both of them passed unanimously, the first being that we unanimously voted that it is in the best interest of the residents of the City of Milton that the Council of the City of Milton approve and accept the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Alpharetta and the City of Milton as amended. The second resolution that we passed unanimously is that we wanted to recognize Jim Craig. Jim Craig, Interim Director, Parks and Recreation for the City of Milton, and acknowledge him for his tireless efforts in working with the City of Alpharetta to finalize negotiations regarding the memorandum and offer the City of Milton the opportunity to utilize facilities and programs in the area without additional expense. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was,
Go ahead, Matt.
this is really a great opportunity. And as far as our citizens, we look at North Park being in the middle of the city, and we wonder, how are we going to deal with, why should we have to pay additional fees participating in Alpharetta programs within our own backyard? And this really just came to us as an opportunity. And we talked about, going into this negotiation with Alpharetta from a capacity standpoint. They have reached capacity, and they recognize that we have capabilities for growth, but we needed to work together. And we had made offers a long time ago, but I think it got to a breaking point where they were recognizing that that they can work with us. And so I give credit to Jimmy Gilden over there in Alpharetta, and having their guys really work as far as figuring out what that number would be from a negotiating standpoint. But really, there's a lot of other things that came into play here that made this happen. First of all, Chris had the foresight to bring on Jim Craig, and Jim was really the bridge that brought this whole thing together with his efforts tirelessly over the years for the benefit of the youth and the two communities combined. He did a fantastic job of just making sure that this all played out, and knew what we needed, knew what they needed, and we were able to communicate as such so that this would work. Mark Reed as well, with his knowledge and foresight, helping us with the numbers too, and Chris's relationships with Mike over there. It really turned into a great thing. And you kind of sit in a meeting and you recognize it's bigger than it really is. And I had that feeling as we were sitting there that from a bottom-up approach, it really felt like this was a regional solidification of our efforts that could one day help us bring about a Milton County, in my mind. As we have leaders up top working on that end, on the top end approach, from a bottom-up approach, this was the next first step for that. So I don't really see a negative to this. I think this is going to benefit a lot of people, especially it affects our citizens in their pocketbooks. The only other issues that we may have to work through will be what happens when a Milton resident decides to sign up for AYFA football, but AYFA football has practices on our rectangular fields that we don't have yet developed. And so we're going to have to create a formula that makes sense for that. But as far as getting things started, we've got a great program laid out in front of us that's going to be starting, I think, a potential great relationship when it comes to our Parks and Rec programs. A lot of people worked well on it, and I give credit to everyone that did. And I just looking forward to completing this tonight.
Okay.
We don't have any further presentation.
Okay. All right. Then I'll open up for a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Milton and the City of Alpharetta for Parks and Recreation Programs and Services, agenda item number 12287.
Second motion.
Okay, got a motion by Councilmember Cook, second by Councilmember Lush. Any discussion? Only thing I'd like to reiterate that folks out here, both here and with Alpharetta, Jim, Mark, your committees, and our staff, and Matt, want to thank you guys for working together and coming up with something that benefits citizens of Milton and Alpharetta. So that's exciting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. We've got, if our city clerk will please sound the next item under new business.
Next item is consideration of a resolution adopting the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Agenda item number 12288. Mr. Jim Craig.
That would be the point that Jim walks forward to make the presentation.
All right, Jim, come on up to the podium there. Look nice at a tie.
If you have a tie in,
Several people have commented this is my first time in a tie. Chris?
So what Jim has in front of you tonight.
No idea what I'm doing. I'm sorry.
The Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
He
this
wore
is
the tie,
culmination
come on.
Yeah, he wore the tie. So this is the culmination of the master planning process that we did for the entire city and its parks programs. You might have remembered that it stalled out there for a little while, and it was going to come in front of you much earlier in the year, and that was right at the time that we acquired more land to build Memorial Park. We erred on the side of caution and pulled it off the agenda and said, let's not adopt one that's expired at the time you adopted it, at least it's not current. So this is the culmination of a long public process with professional consultants. When we adopt these things, we adopt them as guiding documents for the city, meaning that I like at least to have it be presented publicly and on the council agenda so that the council can weigh in, that we can use it as a guide. Now, it, like all of the plans that we have, is simply a guide, and we don't take a good approach or good common sense out of adhering to a guide when a guide no longer makes sense. So I bring that to your attention just to reiterate that the fact that if this adopts tonight doesn't mean that everything in it becomes a part of the city of Milton with the force of law. But it's a document that will guide us as we work towards building out our master plan in our Parks Master Plan in Milton. Uniquely, one of the neat things that always happens when you do these master plans is they put rings on maps and say, this is your search rings, this is where you need to find parks. And it's often funny when that largest need and the largest search ring happens right on top of North Park. Because for the purposes of these master plans, that North Park doesn't count as our inventory. This plan is no exception. It shows that search ring right on top of where North Park is. And it just is frustrating to say, I recognize that we need a park in that area, and there is one. It just doesn't happen to be on our rolls as an asset, so we don't get credit for it. Well, as of the action that you took just a couple of minutes ago tonight, and the action I think Alfred is going to take here a little bit later tonight, that search ring is fulfilled, and it was the number one place that we needed to put a park in the city of Milton. So a lot of neat things intertwined tonight. We'd ask for your consideration in adopting this Parks and Recreation Master Plan tonight as a guiding document, and if you have any technical questions about the plan, Jim will be able to answer them for you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Jim? Comments? Jim, it's got to be pretty exciting to jumped in here not too long ago and already making some awesome progress. So appreciate the fact you've kind of been on both sides there to can make something happen.
Without question, this is the most exciting night I've had since I've been on board. And quite honestly, I know a lot of this is happening because of the MOUs, because of the courage you guys have to be willing to make this deal, and leadership of the people came before me, and assistance and guidance. But this is something I've been working on for a long, long time. I want to thank you all very much.
Good deal. Bill?
Given the fact that we've just purchased another 14, 15 acres over at Bell Memorial.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any insight or goals or visions as to how you see that proceeding, timeline, for example? And is there any general discussion of, at this point in time, of numbers and types of fields, or is it
In terms of
premature?
Excuse me. It's not completely premature. I cannot answer all of your questions, but I can give you some. I've sat down with Chris and Carter, and we've laid out some general timelines of getting started. The first of which is to get on board a engineering consulting team to help us with a master plan of the park itself. How we have to effectively take a flying airplane, rebuild it, and keep it flying while in the rebuild process. So it's going to be a little bit complicated. A draft of that RFP is complete and is going through review with Carter and Rick Pierce and myself. We hope to have that released by the 19th of November. I've set up a timeline in which we're looking to seek citizen input in the March timeframe, and looking to see if we can get a final design on board, hopefully in the summertime. I'd love to see if we can start moving pending availability of funding as early as late fall, early winter next year. I know that's a very aggressive schedule, but I know the citizens have been waiting for a long time to see some development here, and I want to push as hard and as quickly as I can, but smartly. We still have to seek the input of what the citizens in the community look for. I have some general ideas. I've heard a number of ideas from the community. Certainly the MOU does count on our ability to build a rectangular field 2, so we can start to develop some of the parity that we need to help serve the overall community as well as the citizens of Milton, and ultimately pay down that MOU. But it all starts with getting an overall design, get that design, solicit the public input, and then getting a construction company on board and get started. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Another question. I notice you're going to have a community information meeting at
Yes, sir.
Shannondale Farms in a
Yes, sir.
couple of weeks. Could you tell me what you hope to accomplish there?
Okay. Since the word has come out about the purchase of the land, I have become aware that there's a number of questions among the people who live around the community. It has been suggested that the land has been purchased such that we can develop it into a commercial corridor. It's not true. And so I have started out having what initially became, I sat down with one citizen, then he put me in touch with his neighbor, and so on and so forth. From there came the suggestion, can we have a living room conversation type thing? So spoke with the Parks and Rec Advisory Board about it, and they supported it. Dave Shannon offered his home. And so we're just going to come out, and it's not a parks planning meeting. It's just a meeting to talk about what this is about, what's going on, what the timeline is, and make sure citizens know that their voices will be heard, and it's their chance to start talking, and hopefully ease some of the concerns about what it is and what this isn't.
Joe?
Lance?
The RFP that's being drafted says for engineering services. Is it going to include
architectural services too, to look at the building that we purchased as well, the house that we purchased, as far as utilizing that structure for purposes as part of the park.
Well, the plan for the RFP is to have a engineering and landscape design company look at what we have, topology, and how we can do it. Look at the existing structures,
Right.
and look at them from a standpoint of their viability and/or being eliminated in favor of developed fields.
Okay.
I don't include at this time an overall study of the building itself, an in-depth study. It's, other than just saying we have a structure here, does it stay, does it move on? And also, we would look at the existing structures at Bell Memorial Park as well.
Right, okay.
Good. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Jim. Well, if there's no more questions, I'll open up for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 12288.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Hewitt, second by Councilmember Longoria. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. City Clerk, please call the next item.
Thank you.
Our next item is consideration of a resolution imposing a limited and temporary moratorium upon the issuance of business license to new pain management clinics within the city of Milton. Agenda item number 12286. The public hearing was held this evening, November 5th. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is the actual adoption of the moratorium that we just previously held the public hearing on. Again, this will be a 5-month moratorium effective tonight until April 5th, 2013, and hopefully before that time, staff and myself will be able to come to you and advise that the state of Georgia has implemented a nice database that's being monitored, and that some of this proliferation of these pill mill clinics and pain management clinics is being controlled. But I do recommend adoption this evening. Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Mr. Gerard? Okay. I don't hear any. I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution imposing a limited and temporary moratorium upon the issuance of business licenses to new pain management clinics within the city of Milton. Agenda item number 12286.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion by Councilmember Longoria, seconded by Councilmember Kuntz. Any comments? Okay. If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Next item, we're going to go back to agenda item on our consent agenda, agenda item number 12-279, approval of professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Wilmer Engineering, Inc. to provide geotechnical testing services for the replacement of the Cogburn Road Bridge. Councilmember Lawson, if you want to start the discussion.
Yes, sir. Thank you. A number of these come in front of us. We don't always take the time to go through these consent agenda items, but I have a couple questions on this contract, and I believe this is one of the last remaining pieces of the replacement of the Cogburn Road Bridge.
Yes, sir.
The engineering aspects of it, at least site engineering. I guess number one, I wanted to know when the final cost came in and why it hadn't been approved last couple months ago when the job was complete.
Well, in this particular case, there was some discussion on some of the contract language. Because of the timing of the project, Wilmer went ahead and performed the services and was out there on our behalf to do that while they worked through with our legal group on some of the contract language. So this came forward as soon as they felt comfortable with some of the indemnification language in the contract, and they signed it, and we're playing a little bit of catch-up, which is obviously not our normal process, but that's why it's so delayed.
So we have all of the costs in to date on the bridge replacement, culvert replacement. We have
Yes,
a
sir.
final cost.
Yes, sir.
you happen to know what they?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but we were under budget.
Good. Okay. Section.
Can I interrupt just real quick, Bill, on this one too? And I guess I'll own this one to some degree as well, and allow them to move forward. We were talking like $7,100 is what this contract was.
Right.
And
Well,
because of that summer timeline, because of the two schools, that was a $7,100 risk that I was willing to take to get that bridge open before the new high school opened. So that was why we moved forward and allow the contract language to happen after the fact.
well, I'm not questioning your action and the cost of it. It's just the timing, I guess. I had a question about it. And Section 5, compensation and method of payment. Exhibit A, submitted with a proposal, gives their estimated cost of the work based on hourly rates, and they were up around $12,000 or something. But in Section 5, in compensation and method of payment, it does state that $7,108.10. Is that the final cost of their contract?
There are some additional costs above that 7,100, just based on some of the issues that we ran out there. The 12,365 was a full comprehensive set of services that ultimately we didn't accept all of those. A lot of those inspections we did ourselves in-house. So really what we were looking for from a geotechnical standpoint, because the contractor had come in with a modified foundation type on that bridge, rather than going to drilled piles, there was a excavation and replacement with stone and fabric. I felt it was in our best interest to have our own geotechnical on site just to kind of monitor that and review that and evaluate it as it came up. So mostly what we had them out there for was compaction testing and evaluation of that foundation system as it came up.
So they did have a change order to this amount, 7,100?
Yes.
Or additions.
I'm going to have to figure out how to process that. We're evaluating that or reviewing that invoice right now.
Okay, so what are we approving tonight? $7,108 or something above that amount?
At this point, the $7,108 is what they were under contract for and what you're approving tonight. We'll evaluate the invoices and the time that they spent out there, and if it's warranted, I'll have to bring that forward. But I don't have that answer for you right now, so that's what we're looking for tonight.
All right, in the last point, they submitted a certificate of insurance, and the only coverage they're submitting is professional liability insurance. And they were actually performing work on site. Did they provide general liability insurance, automobile, and workers' comp?
They do. It has been submitted. It was just not included in this package, it looks like. But they generally do provide two certificates of insurance, one for professional liability and one for the other. So that is part of our record. It's just not included in this package.
Okay. Just want to make sure the city's covered.
Yes, sir. We do get both of those.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Fair questions.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Thank you, Carter, for your explanation. And Chris?
Do we need?
Then we'll need to vote on this one item. I guess we'll just vote on it under new business.
Yes, sir.
So I'll ask for a motion to approve item number 12-279, approval of professional service agreement between the City of Milton and Wilmer Engineering, Inc. to provide geotechnical testing services for the replacement of the Cogburn Road Bridge. Do I have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve agenda item number 12279.
I second that.
All right, got a motion by Councilmember Lusk, and I'm going to have to give the second to another one of our engineers here, Councilmember Large. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. So our business will move on to reports and then executive session. Does our council have any reports?
Well, since we're talking about football to begin, I'll just remind everybody that Notre Dame is 9-0, but I'll just leave it at that.
Well, while we're on that subject, I'd like to report that my alma mater had a convincing victory this weekend against New Mexico State. It was much more convincing than the other one we had. We're back.
Bowl bound, baby.
Virginia Tech's not, so. There you go.
I keep getting mixed up. Did one of y'all play football and one of y'all go from Virginia?
I think one of those rode motorcycles.
How did you know?
Since word gets around.
Read the newspaper.
Somebody's husband kind of leaked it to the newspaper.
Get you an Eagle Knievel jacket.
I sent out an email the other day, had talked to staff. I had an idea about a city holiday party. And I just want to get y'all's opinion or input, see if it was something that the city was interested in, or the council, or if I'm crazy or not. Being what I thought to have kind of a homey feeling, small town, for the city of Milton, even though we are fairly large, thought it might be nice for the mayor and the council to go together and just welcome all of our citizens to come to my house and have kind of a drop-in and kind of a, we could word it as an informal way to meet your elected officials and get to know them a little bit. Again, it may be crazy. I've talked to staff some about it, and we've got some ideas and some ways that it could be done with donations and things like that, so it doesn't cost the city much money, and it's really just our time, but we'd also have to, it's hard to say, we've had holiday parties before for the city, and, 50 people show up or whatever, versus, the roundup, it's a small percentage of the city. We'd have to spread the hours enough and get some RSVPs to, kind of get a feel.
So if your name starts with A to,
You come between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But anyways, like I say, it would, I thought I'd just host it at my house, so it would feel like, an invitation from the elected officials to come in an informal atmosphere, and thought people might appreciate that. But anyways, we'll get your thoughts if you guys think we should explore it a little more. And we talked about, getting some local Milton restaurants, see if they'll donate some appetizers, things like that. Get some donations for, drinks, food and drinks and all that, so that it's not really a much cost to the city other than a little bit of staff time to help us set it up. But just throwing that out. Anybody?
Holiday parties are always good.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
As long as it's not at my house, I'm fine with it.
Well, maybe Chris and I and Jason can talk some more, and we can, see if it may work out. We talked about maybe doing it the 15th, because we've got some other city project or city events going on before that. So
I was going to say, it's quite a bold offer to make with 32,616 people in the city. I'm sure my house could hold it, but
I do have one question for you. Have you informed your wife you've invited 32,000 people over?
She's kind of on the fence, She thinks I'm crazy.
You're the lord of the manor, although, right?
The one that looked at it and said, "You lost your mind."
So, anyways, we'll,
how big of a tree was that?
I'm going to call everybody in my district.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's usually, honestly, it's like, I think citizens will appreciate the idea that we're hosting something like that we're not spending a bunch of taxpayer dollars on it. But reality is, not a whole lot of people make it, it's usually you don't have that big a turnout. I know, like I said, we've had city functions like that, had political candidate things where everybody's invited, and, you get 50 people, so. I don't know, what Jason think, 300 people?
He did. I think it's bigger than that.
Well, I think if we did RSVPs, number one, have them RSVP to get an idea.
There you go.
And
Okay.
Then you spread it out, the time, it's not like from 6 to 8, but more like from 4 to 9, or, 10 o'clock or 3 or something, so that people could just pop in for a little while.
10% is 3,000.
Hey, you know
We
what?
ran a
Over
hundred.
10 hours, that's
We're
only
cutting-
300
cutting
people
edge.
per
Two
hour.
handles
Who
parking.
else would be? We might be on the national news. Who else would be
We
crazy
have to
enough?
close off the road for parking.
We ran about 150 through my house last year, so.
I would say, one more thing too as well, tonight, City of Alpharetta is gonna be voting as well on the same thing we just did too, and so I'm planning on going down there to sit with them and see if they do that. Anybody else is welcome to come along as well, so, as a council, so I think that'd be a good gesture of support between the two cities too, so.
Sounds good. Okay, move on if the staff.
Just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we go into executive session. Work session next week is Wednesday because of Veterans Day Monday, so if you show up here Monday at 6 o'clock, you'll be by yourself. And then the following council meeting is on the 19th. Immediately prior to that meeting, you will see advertised the Public Facilities Authority meeting. I'll remind you again, but if you put on your calendars the next council meeting on the 19th, that we're going to be here starting at 5:45 instead of 6 o'clock. We need to do a quick amendment to the lease document. That's really what I've got is by way of a staff report, a couple things in executive session.
I will not be here next week.
Okay.
Nor will I.
I will.
Not going to make it either.
Okay, do we have a quorum then?
Four.
We'll have.
I'll be here.
Okay,
As
all
far
right.
as I know. God's got
Okay,
different stuff.
thanks. Let's make the motion to go into executive session.
All right, good.
Councilmember Thurman, you'll need to recuse
All right.
when we go in.
For the whole thing or just,
I'll come get you from her.
okay.
I have a motion and a second to join into executive session to
I move.
discuss
So moved.
land acquisition, or pending and potential litigation and land acquisitions.
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
It is. to reconvene the regular meeting November 5th.
Have a second?
Second.
A motion and second to reconvene our meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
I move
A
that
motion that we adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion second that we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous too.
Okay.